Hello, everybody. This is the AI Digital Worker channel, and I'm here with my co-founder, Johnny Funchess Jr. My name is Bodhi Kroll. I'm going to start with a brief little introduction to both of us. I've got an unusual path, I'd say, that's led me to this position of working on an AI automation agency. Considering that I graduated with degrees in music in the early 90s, 93 to be precise. And I'll tell you, I managed to make it through my entire college career using a typewriter. I was not even an owner. And many of you that are watching this may never have had an opportunity to even touch a typewriter. Well, I made it through college on a typewriter. And shortly after college, I started a business called San Francisco Hang Gliding Center, which got out the gate very strong. And but I had a huge advertising bill, and I was tracking my every call in terms of what advertiser was sending me business. And at the end of the first year, I did the statistics, and I realized that 12% of my business had come off of the internet. And I didn't even own a computer or have a website. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, if I can get 12% of the business, I don't even have a computer. What will happen if I get a website and a computer? You know, so this is 96, late 96. And I went ahead and did that. Step one, figure out how to turn this crazy contraption on. And over the course of the next 6 months, I became a search engine optimization expert and built a website that was second only to the United States Hang Gliding Association. So we're extremely high profile, and it drove about $2 million worth of business to me over the next 11 years. And so I rode that internet wave to the benefit of my personal company, and it was great. It was wonderful. And here we are almost 30 years later. And now we're getting into AI, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Let me turn it over to Johnny, and he'll talk a little bit about himself, and we'll get into how we got to where we are today. Take it away, Johnny.
Hi, yeah. My name is John Funchess, and Bodhi and I, we're both from California, San Francisco, the Bay Area. And my first half of my career was in telecommunications. So I was selling for Pacific Bell. Bodhi and I, we actually met at this company that was an agent for Pacific Bell called Computer Telephone. And we did incredibly well. And so from that point, I was able to follow all these different trends. Like back then, 800 numbers was a big deal. Later on, voice over IP came along. Matter of fact, before that, it was cell phones. So I was doing telecom for a while. And then I transitioned close to the late 90s into IT. And I started doing help desk, desktop, Unix, Solaris, became a Windows man. And then in 2010, I transitioned into cybersecurity because I saw the technologies like VMware, I saw the cloud. It was displacing a lot of people, like a lot of support people. So I was like, you know what? I need to really kind of transition to something else because I don't want to become a dinosaur. Mm-hmm. And that's how I end up in cybersecurity. So now, and I'm seeing where AI is going. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to become another dinosaur. And that is one of the motivations for getting me into AI. But I'm going to let Bodhi actually talk about, how we ended up here. Go ahead.
Well, it was kind of an amazing stroke of luck, I guess I could say. I happened to be perusing a friend of mine's Telegram site that has a lot of different information, news stories from around the world, things of interest and culture and technology, whatever it is. I saw this video by a guy named Liam Atley called "The Death of the Smartphone." And it's a 53-minute watch, and he lays out what's coming in the next 3 years. And it's very persuasive, very well put together about the rise of the AI agent, digital worker. And of course, I'm hearing about it like everybody else, but this video laid it out. And I was like, by the time that thing was over, I was like, I'm either going to surf this wave and be one of the haves, or I'm going to be brushed by this wave and be one of the have-nots. And I thought, I'm harking back to all those years ago when I rode that first internet wave, didn't even know how to turn on a computer. I became a search engine optimization expert, and served me very well. And I thought to myself, this is the next wave, and this is going to be enormous. And so I found out that Liam was offering a 60-hour course, free, information rich. And so I got into it, and after 30, 40 hours into it, one of the things that I learned was that, you want to go through your mental Rolodex and figure out who in your life can you push forward on this concept with, And as Johnny mentioned, we met in the mid-90s, going back 30 years. And of course, we stayed in contact. Some of you haven't spoken with Johnny in the last 30 years, but we haven't worked together for 30 years. And basically, I just realized, Johnny was one of the most polished, amazing salespersons I ever met. Hilariously funny. I mean, he made what could have been a fairly mundane day into a hilarious, wonderful experience. What could I say, Johnny? I just remember so fondly. And I thought, if I'm about to go on the ride of my life with this AI thing, I might as well call up the best salesman I ever met, a great human being, and see if he thinks this is a crazy idea. So basically, I called Johnny up after I was probably 30, 40 hours into this program, this school program with Liam Atley's. I called Johnny up and I said, Johnny, I'm deep into this AI program. It's unbelievable. I gave him a brief synopsis of the film I watched. I gave him a brief synopsis of how I want to get involved in the AI automation business. I said, does this seem like something that might be of interest to you, Johnny? And he was like, oh my God, yes, send me the link. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to you, Johnny. Tell him, after I sent you the link to that free schooling program, what was your next week like?
Yeah, he calls me, Bodhi calls me, he says, hey man, this thing, AI, and I hadn't really been, the first time I heard about AI was ChatGPT a couple of years ago. And when it first came out, I kind of messed around with it. And, but after that, I really didn't even think about it. So he calls me, he says, hey man, it's this chat, it's this AI, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be incredible. He said, I'm going to send you over something, take a look at it. It's a free program. And it essentially, it's videos, it'll show you everything you need to know. I said, okay. So he sends me over the information. I start watching the videos, right? And the first video I saw, I was like, wait a minute. What it reminded me of through the course of my career is all these trends. And if you can get into the beginning of a trend, like during the 800 portability, the voice over IP, cell phones, if you can get in the beginning of something, you can make a lot of money. So anyways, I would say by the end of the week, like I started watching a video like Monday. By Friday, I already had watched 50 hours of the videos. And I was just consuming it. I was like, oh my God, this is bigger. This is going to be bigger than the Industrial Revolution. It's going to be bigger than the internet. And I'm like, it's only 2 years old. So I gotta do it. And so after looking at it, and this was before the whole week. This was like only after the first day I called Bodhi. I said, look, I'm in Bodhi. this is a gold mine right here.
No, I remember you said, Bodhi, I'm in. How much money do I need to send you?
Well, you know, I really would have gave you anything you asked for.
I said, Johnny,
I'm like,
I just
you're
want your
going to
beautiful
be
mind. I
freaking
don't need to send me a
millionaires.
penny. Don't need to send me a penny. It's not like that yet. I just want you on the team. If you're excited like I am, we're gonna do some great things.
Yeah. So this is one thing that I've noticed, of course, in my life is being able to see, like, if you get into a technology in the beginning, and I have been in the beginning of quite a few technologies. I mentioned some of them, you know, cell phones and voice over IP, and then I seen VMware come, and the cloud, which is what really made me go into cybersecurity, because the cloud and voice over IP kind of created the demand for cybersecurity, and now AI.
Yeah. Well, you know, the next thing that I think happened for me as I was going through the program is I was realizing that, you know, Liam mentions, you know, you got to maybe pick one or the other in the beginning. You're going to be going general, which means maybe you'll take anything that you can get and try to automate something, or go niche as soon as you can. And so, again, I'm racking my brains because of one of the things that Liam said was, you know, who in your circle can you either bring in on your team, or maybe they have a business that could be automated, because he suggests you start out by doing something for free for family or friends. And so I'm thinking, who do I know? Who do I know? And I realized I have a friend that's a manager of a public adjusting company, which is a public insurance adjuster. And I'm good buddies with this guy. And I just thought, you know, this could be a fit. I don't know exactly what the guy does, but I'm gonna call him up. So I did. I called up my friend Cesar, and did a basic lowdown on roughly what we could do, and what his needs were. And I said, look, this sounds like it could be a fit. Are you interested in having me really come over and look at your workflow and try to decide if we can help to speed it up, you know? Or automate it. And he said, great. So we went over, and I ended up spending several weeks with him, really mapping out a very clear and thoughtful workflow, which ended up being 27 steps. And, you know, and some of the steps were, if this happens, then do that. If that doesn't happen and this happens, and you have to do that, and then if that happens, skip to step 24, and then, you know, it was complicated, but we spent several weeks to really nail it down to 27 clear, concise steps on everything. And most of those were emailing and texting, and about 10 of them were voice calls. So once I finished that workflow, which was an amazing experience, I have to tell you, I would have thought, as I was working on a document like a 27 steps to complete an insurance claim for a roofing repair, I would have thought that would have been one of the most boring things you could ever possibly engage in your entire life. But actually, as it turns out, it was weirdly fascinating and exciting. And I was, even as I was doing it by hand, I was working and right in the back of ChatGPT, which, like Johnny, I started working with about 6 months ago. And quite frankly, I've come to feel like I essentially have a personal assistant with a PhD in everything. And so, you know, I'd come up with my great ideas and I bounce it off ChatGPT, and then it would give me back responses to improve it a little bit. But strangely enough, it sometimes would send back mistakes. And so I had to figure out how to work with it to really prompt it to give me the correct answers, which I, you know, over the course of several weeks, I did. And when I finished that process and had a beautiful document that, like I said, sometimes I was up till 2, 3 in the morning slaving over this hot document, and I'm thinking to myself, why am I exhilarated? Why is this one of the most exciting things I've ever done? This should be boring beyond belief. But anyway, once I finished it, I turned it over to Johnny, who had enough tech experience that he decided to go ahead and start working with some of these no-code platforms like Make.com. So Johnny, once I turned it over to you, you've been working diligently on trying to get this process automated. Tell us about what that was like for you, what it's been like, and ups, downs, sideways.
Yeah. So in the beginning, when we were looking at the path and when we had to decide on if we were going to be a niche or a generalist, that would determine for me what kind of tools I needed. So I knew I didn't want to learn no Python, even though I'm technical. I have a lot of skills. You know, I've been in cybersecurity. I do have C#, C++, SQL, query. I have PowerShell, but Python, I'm like, for me to learn this, it's going to take like 6 months. So anyway, he sent me the document and I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot. And I uploaded into ChatGPT. I just uploaded, and then it came back, and I clicked on the deep research. It came back, and it just mapped out everything, right? And then I was like, okay, this is going to be way easier than what I thought it would be. I looked at, all right, should I use Make.com or should I use Zapier? Because I wanted something that was no code, because I'm not going to learn no freaking Python. If I had to learn Python, I wasn't going to do this at all. So, because that would take me 6 months to a year and all that. I'm not doing any of that. So anyways, I choose Make.com. And the beauty of it is Make.com, I took his workflow and now I have to automate it. And with Make.com and with the instructions I had, all I had to do was essentially like, okay, we have the first trigger is going to be an email that when the email comes in, then it has to upload that email and time and date stamp into a CRM. And then from there is trigger after trigger after trigger. And chat, anytime I had an obstacle, and I had them along every step of the way. But the beauty was I could just ask ChatGPT. I'm like, hey, I got a problem. This is what it is. I'm not sure. You know, you are the expert. Tell me now. So, so then it spits out how to fix it. And so I'm going along, and now I'm like 75% completed. And I have a couple of things with the API that I have to get resolved. But once I have that done, I only got 25% of the whole project completed, and then I'll test it to make sure that everything works the way it's supposed to. And now I'm testing along the way. Every step of the way is being tested. And once that happens, I complete the full automations, then we'll give it to the customer, have them tested, and it'll go live into production. All right. So Bodhi, you know, after I share with you, hey, look, I'm 75% the way through, right? You had actually a very good idea about if we had a development team of our own, right? Now, I know this is not really what we talked about. You know, we did not talk about talking about this, but I think it's important if we're able to kind of outsource or sub out the development aspect of this, we can just focus on making money. Talk about that a little bit, Bodhi.
Well, yeah, I mean, Well, for starters, when I called you, I actually didn't realize you had the skills to even really dream of doing that. I called you because you're one of the finest salespeople I ever met and a great human being. That's why I called you. When you said you could do it, I was like, great, do it. And I said, besides which, at some point, when we have this up and running, we may want to have an educational part of our company. And if you're, super well educated from having gone through the process, that's great. That's going to be important. But I couldn't help thinking to myself that if we could get, because what I really think, or I felt your time would be best spent, would be not having to troubleshoot problems and deal with escalations. But if we had a development team to do that, then I would play to your strengths and my strengths, which is getting on to the phone and selling this amazing product to people that basically those that get the product are going to have a chance to survive the next 3 to 5 years. And quite frankly, those that don't probably won't. It'd be like being in the late 90s and just refusing to get a website. It's just probably those people that, by the way, say, I'll just use the yellow pages. People will call me from the yellow pages. Well, those people didn't make it. So, I just realized that I thought, and I'm glad to see that you agreed. I think you should see this through and still do it. But I think that if we can get a great development team, and I'm excited to say, and I'm not going to jinx it by saying who it is, but I was talking with the senior vice president of sales of a multinational company with over 2,500 employees and huge yearly revenue. And I presented the 27 steps after I presented the non-disclosure agreement to them. I presented it, and the senior vice president of sales was astonished. He said, this is amazing. He said, no, this is what our team usually has to produce a document like this. So you've taken a lot of the initial work out of it because you produce a thorough document. He said, look, we're going to look it over. I might have to call you with a question or two, but quite frankly, it looks like we might not even really have any questions. We laid it out so thoroughly. And so we're in the process of trying to get a development team that would be an enormous feather in our cap. And I'm confident after talking to him that one way or the other, we're going to be able to work that out. And he agreed with me that, me and you should be on the phone getting more deals and not receiving a late night escalation call because there's a glitch or a problem. Let them handle that while we wake up fresh to bring on more clients in the same niche. And of course, as Liam says, the beauty of doing a small niche, which is picking a tiny little career path, that you're going to automate, it's scalable because then we can take that to another company that does the exact same thing. And it will be a very simple transition to automate for the second company because they're going to have pretty largely similar workflow. There may be some differences, but by and large, we'll be able to scale it because we're sticking to this tiny little niche and feeding it, selling it to more and more companies. And those that want to jump on board and automate will be so much more efficient that they simply will outperform those that don't want to jump on and get automated. Those that don't jump on, sadly, will be covered by this giant tsunami, and those that are ready to take advantage of this unbelievable revolution are going to ride that wave and be amongst the people that are the winners in this vast transition that we're facing. So,
and I wanted to mention, when it comes to like this claim adjuster we're working with, they have approximately 5 claim adjusters, and they're paying them on average like $300,000 a year. Once
that's 300 between the 5 of them. Yes.
Yeah, because each of them average about 60,000 a year. Yeah. And 5 is 300,000, right? And they'll probably have one person that they'll keep on to kind of monitor the automations and make sure that if it glitches, there's someone there to correct it and keep it moving forward. But if a business owner can save $300,000 and the overhead to have their business automated annually is, let's say is 60,000. They're saving like $250,000 annually, and they're going to be just as efficient, if not more, just as productive, if not more, with a fifth of the workforce, a fifth.
Yeah.
Right? And though this is really what AI is providing, not only for small business, medium business, and then corporate America. And I will say this right now, corporate America, Fortune 1000 companies, accumulatively, they have $1 trillion they're looking to invest into AI infrastructure. Our federal government have a project, Stargate, where they're investing $500 billion into AI infrastructure. Within 3 to 5 years, there's going to be a bloodbath in corporate America in terms of unemployed. And I think it's going to be more of the lower level jobs, such as jobs that were paper pushing jobs that were computerized. That would be like an admin, reception, data entry, secretarial, receptionist, human resources. Those jobs, they may not be here 3 to 5 years.
It's kind of like in the early 1900s, if you were working at a buggy whip factory making buggy whips, and the cars were starting to come out. I mean, just once the car came out, there wasn't much need for buggy whips, and I think that's what all the jobs you just mentioned, you might as well be making buggy whips at this point.
And so what we're doing, we're adjusting like they had to adjust in the Industrial Revolution when you have farmers that were replaced by tractors. Those farmers had to move into the city like New York and Chicago and go into the factories and into construction, building high rises. It's adaptability. And so that is some of the motivation for me. And then the other, this has really been fun. I'm learning new things, which, being in IT, that's what I'm used to doing. And so this is a really comfortable transition for me. Bodhi.
Well, that's really great. And your level of excitement and enthusiasm for this has been so great, because I was bursting at the seams, and I didn't have anyone to share it with, really. My wife and daughter, there's only so much they want to hear about AI, so it's great to have a buddy that's just as excited about it as me and moving forward. And I think I want to just maybe sum it up with two quick things, just a little side note that we thought was kind of fun, and that is, we offered to Cesar, who's the manager of this public adjusting insurance claim company, basically, when we have automated his job out of existence, when he essentially doesn't really have much to do during the day because all the emails are going out for him, composed and sent out templates, or original composed ones being sent out. Eventually as well, most of the voice calls, if not all of the voice calls, will be also handled by an AI voice agent. And what I offered to Cesar, who's an old friend, as I mentioned, a great guy, is that maybe he would want to get onto our sales team. And what a powerful story he's got. I'm the former manager of this public insurance adjusting firm, and I'm calling on you because I just want to let you know that I've been automated out of existence, and I'm now working for the company that automated me out of existence. And I want to offer you, here's a life raft.
That's kind of ironic, isn't it?
If you want to survive. If not, I'll call the next guy, and he will grab your hand and do that. So that's kind of a fun little twist, and we think Cesar is going to do super well, because it's such a great story to say that he got this job to be on the phone with you because he's completely redundant and automated out of existence. So there's that. And then lastly, I just want to leave with a little reference to one of the inspirations for this video was Liam Atley's video, which is called 5 Ways let's see, 5 ways you can automate. Oh, my brain is going dead here. Hang on. 5 ways to start an AI automation agency in 2025, which, by the way, I created a thorough cliff notes for, and you can find at the bottom of this video. But you could also watch the video itself. The cliff notes are great. It's information rich with links and information to study up on. But the 6 points that I think are really important to mention that he makes, he calls it the path. And that is, number one, pick a niche with repetitive workflows. That I did. Number two, offer a free AI audit or a strategy session to a business in your niche, which was my friend Cesar, but basically the AI audit is calling him and just confirming, roughly what is his workflow like, and trying to decide if this is something that could be automated. And after that AI audit, we both agreed it was worth looking at. And so step 3 in the path is learn the niche deeply, interview businesses, study their processes, and find the bottlenecks. Well, I spent 2 weeks with Cesar, learning step by step what he does at every point in the process. And after 2 weeks, I created a document, 27 steps on exactly how to complete a transaction and get a homeowner paid for their insurance claim on the damage to their home. And so that the fourth step was build an agent to automate one or more of those bottlenecks. Well, that's where Johnny's come in. Johnny's already 75% of the way into automating the process. And we're also actively now negotiating with a large multinational company that happens to also work in this area of insurance. And so I think we're probably going to make a great strategic partnership with those guys. Step 5 was document your process on YouTube. Well, guess what?
Here we are.
Here we are, baby. We're doing it right now. And if you watch the video and check out our links, it will explain the importance of that and why we're doing it. And then the last step is basically start making calls. And that we have not done yet as far as calling clients, because we're waiting until we actually have the product fully automated. Then we'll begin making calls. So that's where we're at. This has been fun. This has been great. I'm so thrilled you're on board. And as excited as I am, Johnny, that means the world to me that, I can have an old friend that's just as excited and we're both at the apex of our knowledge base. We're not spring chickens, but we're not doddering old people, but we've both been through multiple careers. And I think we're in just absolute perfect position in terms of we're at the peak of our knowledge and experience in life. And I think this next 10 years is going to be a ride. You and I are just it's going to be eye-poppingly amazing.
Yeah. And from here, we're going to be looking at other niches. And we already have a couple of business people that they're excited to automate their business. And just like back when in the internet, when it first came out, everyone knew they had to have a website. They didn't know anything about the internet. They just knew they had to have a website. And that's what AI is like. They don't understand AI, but they know they need to be involved. And so I'm very excited to be working with Bodhi, to be in the forefront and in the initial stages of this. And we'll fill you in next video on where we are. And I believe I should be completed with the automation, and then we could speak more of detail of what and how and the whole process with that. Until next time, I'd like to bid you adieu. And Bodhi, any last words?
Remember the name, guys. AIdigitalworkers.net. That site is not operational yet, but coming soon. It's a placeholder at the moment, but that's going to be the base of our of contacting us and our business front was AIdigitalworkers.com. Thanks, everybody.
All right. See you guys. That was a lot. But
Did you stop recording?
Mhm.
That was so good.
Was it?
That was so good. I was sitting on the side and I was not bored. I was interested. He was just conversational. You guys had a natural back and ebb and flow with each other and rapport. And you guys both just sounded like yourselves. Like, I know podcasts. That was good.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, first.
That's
Oh,
what I
you
was
hear my wife?
I did. I heard the whole thing, and she was saying
Yeah.
exactly. I was thinking to myself, well, I mean, it could have been better, but I mean, that was pretty fucking good. I mean, I can't.
That was good.
I'm totally happy with it. I mean, I'm not gonna say the next one's gonna be even better, but I mean, we set the bar high.
Yeah.
And you know,
you guys could take snippets and everything of that.
and I had Gemini take notes of the whole thing.
Oh no way!
Get
You
out.
AI fiend, look at you go.
You can record a video about that. I mean, that's
Gemini
Oh,
took
that's, I
everything
was
that
very
we
happy with
said,
that.
everything in writing was recorded.
dude, that's
Nice.
This is
a
we,
Nice.
transcription. Yeah.
we made a transcription.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. No, I thought that was pretty clean. I mean,
Oh
I think
shoot!
you
I
stick
should
pretty
have
well to
included.
the-
I should have
to our
included the cap.
plans, and
I didn't do that.
it was very conversational. No, it was great. I was real happy with that. So I don't feel that, I don't think you need to edit. I don't think you need to change one thing. I think it's ready to go. What say you?
Oh wait.